ever grand finals in the LPL as an organization. We see the Rakan, the Jace, the Kai'Sa banned away by LNG. On the blue side, JDG will ban that Maokai, the LeBlanc, and the Azir. We finally get the man on his pick. It's the Xayah for Ruler.
He has an insane win rate across this year. Go back to last game though, where JDG were also in blue. They picked the Tristana first pick, and LNG removed the Xayah after that point. I think JDG, they're revisiting their priorities, saying, okay, Ruler, you need that extra ability to peel for yourself. In the last two games, which they lost, it wasn't enough on the Varus and then the Aphelios against the compositions, which LNG brought out. They're changing how Ruler can play these team fights.
369 going right back with the Gragas here as well, not looking as, you know, reminiscent of his previous picks. We get the Knight.
Yes.
Ahri coming through. I know something you're really excited about.
So, obviously my main champion, I love seeing this one picked up, and I think Knight is the best Ahri in the world. He definitely has some of the best skills in them. He is an incredible snowball Ahri, so I'm really looking for now what the mid-jungles will be to see if Kanavi and Knight can link up in a way that Tarzan and Scout have done so well in this series.
And I think Knight is always willing to bring this pick out when it matters most, when their backs are against the wall. We do have an incredible trio, though, already for LNG. The Tristana combining with Tarzan's Sejuani, something that was banned so much against them in these playoffs, and then we get Zika right back on the Ksante.
Already, you know, we've had 3 games of very different drafts. It's the 4th game looking to be even different. Again, very different mid lane champion coming out from Knight. Somewhat surprised that we're not going to see the Renekton locked in for Zika on 3rd, as well as the Ksante and Sealed. Yes, it's a melee matchup towards that top side. He hasn't gone towards the Jax. He hasn't gone towards the Renekton, 2 champions he's found a lot of success on. Instead, locking on something which can play frontline a little easier in this game.
The ban of the Vi taking away that combo from the Ahri, just that point-and-click CC combined with the amount of damage you can follow it up with the Ahri, also Knight's Ahri. But I want to see if maybe LNG continue to focus down that way. We actually get the Varus banned away against Gala.
So, I think JDG, they're trying to angle for stronger laning phase towards that bot side then, allow Ruler to get into a point of power. Has felt like the laning phase has gone the way of Ruler and missing in the game so far, but it hasn't really been the deciding factor. Yes, they've gotten a couple of CS leads, but it hasn't led to anything in those team fights. So without the Varus now, what's Gala going to go towards? We could see ourselves something like a Ziggs coming out from Gala. He has played that, of course, multiple times when you can put that Tristana into the mid lane, and of course that Trist can just go bot as well. There's flexibility. LNG, what are they going to go towards?
I think it's so funny how much the Melio has come into play in this one because it's been banned every single game. We actually get the Ziggs ban towards Gala, so that was something we highlighted last game. They do like to leave as a final pick for them, but they still have a lot of flexibility in their pool. This pick right here, I think, showed so much promise. It showed why it was actually banned away in the previous game, but it is something that Hung was able to find so many multi-directional engages on. He would pop a depth charge onto one carry, he'd throw the dredge line onto the other. It was so pivotal.
And it really stopped that double marksman composition working out quite so easily. Going to be hard to do that against the mobility of the Ahri and, of course, the ult from the Xayah. You can kind of shrug off the depth charge in a number of those scenarios. Kanavi going to go back towards Wukong. We've talked about JDG and a couple of champions saying, oh, they're the best in the world at this. It hasn't mattered in this series. We said that about Knight's Annie, felt a little bit bad. We're saying the same thing about his Ahri now in this game. Kanavi was, of course, incredibly potent on Wukong throughout the entirety of this year. Missing it, going to go away from the Alistar, though, now onto the Braum.
I like the Braum, actually. It gives you a lot of peel back, but also just a lot of strength with the composition. I think you'll be able to find those concussive blows very easily here as well. So I like the standard style comp, I guess the standard for Knight with the Ahri, but it is the Jinx locked in for Gala, a hyper carry to dream of.
Okay, so flipping the compositions from game 3 to game 4 a little bit, at least in regards to the double marksman now being played by LNG. They have the range advantage. Tristana, Jinx, they will outrange JDG. JDG, they have themselves engaged threats, but it's not going to be that easy to get to those carries through triple tanks. You got Ksante, Sejuani, Nautilus. None of them are particularly easy to take down. I think JDG, they need to have a strong start in this game. I don't think they can afford to have a more slow affair, as we've mainly seen in these 3 games, because if you get to those first, second item marks on fairly even footing, I feel like LNG, they can protect their carries well.
Isn't it so fitting that LNG saw JDG's misstep? They've gotten the Xayah for Ruler, they've gotten the Knight Ahri yet again, but it's a double marksman comp coming to gun them down in game number 4. Will we go to Silver Scrapes, or will we have a finishing end for LNG? We hit the rift as the Gyos start to ring. as everyone calms down in their seats after the gyos, it is a little bit of that commanding lead from LNG in a 2-1 so far, but it is a lot of momentum gained from them. Game 1, it looked like JDG could just take this series easily. They were able to turn around such a strong early look from LNG, but all LNG needed to do was hone in a little bit, find exactly where they need to put pressure at, and they've done just that.
And they've really made JDG look uncomfortable, particularly in the carries, which we've had so much praise for. It has felt like 369, Kanavi, and Missing. They've done what they could with the drafts that they had available to them, but they couldn't buy enough space for that backline. On the other side, Scout, Gala, what a series they've ended up having, especially after that first game. We thought that it was a bit of a done deal. Now onto the Rift, we have, once again, junglers starting on the other side of the map from each other. We don't have early wards to spot out the exact starts, but with the late return of Ruler and Missing back to lane, and of course Zika on that top side as well, both sides will know by by context that the junglers have started on opposite sides.
And that does mean we have to look at where those early influences are going to go. Kanavi last game was actually super heavy presence around bottom side of the map, and wonder if that is going to be the case yet again. Ruler ever so present on this Xayah, even bringing out the skin to make it so.
It's about to mention that he only plays that skin when he feels it's important to do so. I feel like a couple of Worlds winners have followed that philosophy. Ruler has an important job in this game, though. It has felt like, Ruler has struggled a little bit, particularly in that Varus game, the last Phalios game too. Xayah has a bit more firepower. Also, going back towards Knight in this mid lane, he's going to be one of the few champions which really feels like he has the tools to reach the backline of LNG through that front line. If he gets a good engage over a wall on the Ahri, potentially he can get a charm onto Gala or Scout, which could seal one of these fights, but it has to start early into the game. I really fear for JDG if they don't find one of those angles early, the LNG are going to hit their items, they're going to blast away in this game.
I'm quickly looking to see if Knight and Kanavi can actually connect with something in the mid lane, try to punish Scout a little bit, because we have so many accolades throughout this entire best of, right? Both sides have so much going for them. We have the double MVP of regular season in Scout. You have incredible moments from Knight, the MSI Finals MVP. Just trying to make things happen for them is so important, but it also comes down to the track record of both these two teams, right? This is an LNG who have not beaten JDG since summer 2021.
And considering that Knight and Scout were kind of franchise players of their previous teams of Top Esports and EDG as well, that matchup also didn't go that well for Scout. Scout was, what, 1-9 in best of threes, 1 and 3 in best of fives, really not getting the better end of that deal against Knight.
I see nice trades in bottom side, won't come to much here, but Kanavi, proactive as ever, like he was in last game, is now looking at the opposite side of the map and looking at Zika. I don't think he can get anything here, though. Yeah, it's going to be a nice little presence, though. And Kanavi, at least showing his face here, will actually take a look at a backing Knight as well. And Scout was actually ready to move. So some of that fluidity is actually already coming to bear for LNG.
Yeah, first couple of levels, you kind of expect the Tristana with a bomb on the wave to get control of that one. There are some options for Ahri into Tristana to take some harder trades and then be the first person to be able to move. Not going to be available at this point, though. Knight teleports back into lane, has himself the Dark Seal, very important for Snowball. You pick up an early couple of kills, it's extra ability power under your belt as well. Feels like that's just the name of the game for JDG. They have to get an early fight somewhere. I guess my advice for LNG then is to try and clap back, try and draw in that first play, try and make sure that JDG are kind of playing into your hands. They did that very well in previous games.
And we've talked so much about like kind of the new legacy building. Obviously, Ruler coming into the LPL at the start of the year really influenced this JDG roster. Knight coming over from Top Esports, but it also is on the other side, Scout and Gala, a new legacy, a new chapter in their books, moving on from EDG and RNG respectively to try to make an attempt at a first title for LNG.
And it's so important for so many of the members on this team as well. Tarzan, first finals in 4 years. Scout, of course, very successful over his course of his LPL career, but going into a new team and showing he can do it outside of EG as well, for him on a personal level, I'm sure that means an awful lot. Gala, the same for RNG. He's won an awful lot of spring titles with that organization. He's gone to MSIs, but he's not had the same kind of success in summer as well. See Tarzan, Scout linking up together to go into the enemy jungle, try and hem back that mid-jungle from Kanavi Knight.
I actually appreciate LNG being so active and kind of aggressive with this competition, because it's still something where, JDG were playing a lot lax because they needed this double marksman comp to come alive for them in game number 3. And speeding there, a little bit of moves from Scout getting out from the charm of Knight. It still does mean we have both junglers hovering around the dragon here, though.
to bot lane push coming in from Ruler and missing. It's hard to jump onto a Braum.
Gala's here. This is really bad for JDG. They got to be careful, but they might just turn it around. No, it's going to be Hook that makes it out, and first blood goes straight to the king of the jungle, Tarzan, and it's looking like Gala wants another one, but he can't get excited just yet. He tries to get it back, but it is LNG who strike first.
Close run stuff in the bot side of the map. Yes, jumping into a Braum is dangerous, but it's still early levels. Hung gets out alive. Missing sadly can't say the same for himself. I guess the silver lining for JDG is it's not Jinx that gets the kill, but they still lose that first blood. It's still goal over towards Tarzan, and as much as we were asking for JDG to get early advantages, their first play goes awry.
The timing is everything, and the Sejuani for Tarzan is everything.
You can see that, you know, the Wukong's on his way down. It's not like Kanavi is blind to this play. Tarzan just gets there faster. Great feather pull back from Ruler, but I think Ruler and Missing, they just kind of understand, look, we got to walk away with something from here. It's going to be awkward to get away from that Sejuani passive. And now suddenly, what was looking like an okay laning phase from Ruler and Missing, on its head a little, Gala and Hung into the game.
And it's so crazy to me to think back at LNG's journey so far. We're talking about all the legacy building and stuff, whatever. That's all great narrative. They have been in a grueling gauntlet in this summer split, right? This is their 5th best of 5, and the fact that they're able to stay and keep JDG on their toes, now taking a dragon for themselves, maybe contested, is a mark of prominence for LNG. They do get that one. Nice denial from Knight there, though. Doesn't hit the charm, but Tarzan is the focus, and JDG will strike back. They do get the rocket jump out of Scout. The concussive blows actually land onto Hung. Might have Scout getting in some trouble. The Buster Shot comes through. He's going to have to flash. LNG do make it out with just one going down, and it is the Dragon going their way too. Yeah,
at least the kill goes over to JDG, but LNG, they managed to secure most of their members on the way out. They get a first Dragon as well, so it's not the end of the world for them. So we go back onto the map. Let's see what this really means. As you can see, Ruler at least gets a free wave to shove it to the side. Ult tops.
It wants to get the all out there in the end. Actually gets a lot of damage down onto 369 with that extra damage buff there. But Kanavi showing his face yet again up here. Should push Zika off of this one. Tarzan making his presence known here. Rocket jump dodged out of though. And Knight will be able to make it out alive. Tarzan not going to be able to find it. He's not level 6 yet, but as soon as that Glacial Prison comes online, those connections are going to be lethal.
So I was a little bit worried because I was looking over Kanavi and like, oh, jungle ults are available. I didn't quite realize that Tarzan was just that little bit behind. Herald's up. Tarzan, I think off of this next camp, will hit level 6 as well, so he'll be ready to fight. Gala's now left alone in this bot side. He's not roaming up towards the play, but not to matter. Ruler isn't either. If there is going to be a fight around Herald, it will be even. Looks like LNG, they give it for free.
Hung and Missing in the mid lane. See actually some plates going down the way of Gala as well. That Rift Herald is going to be nice for JDG to try to get some gold back in their pockets here as well. Do wonder where that focus is going to go. It has to be between Knight and Ruler.
I see where they really get the real openings, right? I mean, the thing about the Herald is that you need to be able to actually stick around and get it into that turret. We saw the last time that Ruler and Missing overstayed in bot lane. They ended up eating a death for that one instead. So JDG, much more about knowing where LNG are on the map before they drop that Herald.
Missing going to see the hooligans in his jungle.
Get off my lawn.
There. Get out of here. Throw you some winter's bite.
Anyway, stops the recall.
Yeah, it stops the recall at least. It will just be that sense of calm coming over though, even though we've gotten some heavy skirmishing around the bottom side. Now we have to hone in on the styles we'll see from this, right? We have the LNG bringing out the double marksman composition, where again on the other side I feel like you do have a bar of execution, but stability and comfort for JDG.
Yeah, their champions, they're absolutely not stranger to. These are a lot of champions that they picked up, particularly in spring. I think we've seen the Gragas fall away a little bit from 369, and Wukong and the Ahri been hit by, I guess, meta changes, and particularly Wukong has been hit by a lot of nerfs towards the end of summer as well. Returning to the JDG roster at a very pivotal moment. LNG, of course, they have their own comfort too. Gala, great player of the Jinx, and Scout, one of the very best Tristanas in the LPL. They're doing fine by their own rights. They've got themselves their own gold. They've survived that early laning phase, and that's one of the worries we had for JDG is that if you don't get early leads, these carries are going to do an awful lot of work even in the game.
And that's how LNG upended the win condition of JDG last game. They did not give them a chance to hit those 3-item spikes. We heard Kitty and Hysterics talk about it on the desk. It is something about timing that has to be there. And LNG have taken advantage of that at least last game. Now it is on the other foot, and it's JDG that needs to continue pressing forward and try to find as many advantages as they can. They still have the Rift Herald for Kanavi as well.
Me too, and again, I think they're just trying to catch LNG off guard if they can. Shamlan's in the mid lane, it's going to be an electrocute trade, and Scout leads some minion damage as well. Kanavi, Knight, they both have their ults. They don't have flashes. They'd love to force a play at some point, catch someone out in rotation, but they've not really been able to get deep vision yet. They really want to catch someone out alone from LNG. I think once you get into 5-man fights, the tankiness of LNG will start to really shine. Before that comes out is where JDG want to throw a punch.
All right, so we finally did get the resource delivery straight to the doorstep of Knight. We actually get Zika going the all-out on the 369 here. Gets that Q3 as well. He has a lot of damage, but we still have 369's flash, and he does have the body slam to get over the wall.
So, good unstoppable there from Zika to stop the explosive cast from knocking him away. Missing now trying to put down some wards towards this bot side. Kanavi also going into the enemy jungle, helping Ruler push in towards here. The game slowed down a little bit. LNG, I'm sure they're going to be happy with that one. Again, they're getting gold, they're getting items. They are happy with the way this is going. It's been slow and methodical from LNG for a lot of summer split. That's where they found a lot of their successes. But when the go button goes green, they have so much ability to press that button when they get the items.
And it comes down to experience. I know there's experience on both sides. We literally have our previous MSI champions on side of JDG, but it is a track record of excellence for majority members, at least in Gala and Scout, the main carries for LNG, and they need to lean on that experience here to navigate the early game. We do have some item spikes coming across. More importantly, the Divine Sunderer there for Kanavi.
Huge spike for the Wukong. Means that Q, the crushing blow, does so much work. Wukong, one of the highest damage junglers in the game. Sejuani, also one of the best scaling ones on the other side, though. Tarzan, Kanavi, their role is coming up to a very important part.
We do have the Dragon coming up very, very shortly, and wonders if this is going to be a second in a row for LNG. It looks like JDG actually want to try to contest this one, but if Missing is already gone, you can't. He does have to burn that flash out, though. Hung going to take a nice trade back, but that is a lot of your front line already taken off the board, at least in terms of the safety he provides. Maybe Tarzan going to take the brunt of that one, though. The charm connects in the end. Able to get the Glacial Fissure there, but not able to follow that one up. This should just mean JDG take the Dragon.
A flash for a flash is nice. I don't think Missing's Glacial Fissure is the most important cooldown in the world to have. You can't use that to go forward aggressively that often, unless someone really oversteps. Dragon has now spawned with those cooldowns now being used. Who's that favoring, really?
We'll actually see 369 heading down towards this bot side, seeing that JDG actually want to put some more presence around this fight, and Zika's on his way too.
On his way. JDG, they pushed in mid, they pushed in bot. Scout has himself teleport. He can finish off maybe his first item before this play. That'll be a great stat bump for LNG while they head up to one of the first big 5v5s. Potentially a deciding game.
All right, there's LNG moving in a little bit late here. Missing going to be taking up a Storm. The Dragon does go over to JDG. Nice little Cyclone there, and a cast comes across. Missing is still alive, but Zika flashes for the kill. Now you got the resets coming through, but the double marksman comp is still alive and well. You got to be careful that re-engage at JDG. They pull him apart, and it's actually going to be Knight and Ruler who make the difference.
So JDG walk away with the Dragon. They walk away with a good fight as well. They need the early gold. The early kills definitely help them in regards to that. JDG, can they kind of use this now, the death timers of LNG, to push in some waves and get themselves a second Herald? They really want to keep this rolling. LNG, it's an awkward fight for them to eat at this point. They're entering River late. They didn't have wave push before this Dragon spawned, and it feels like Gala and Scout, they were hitting the wrong targets. At the end of the day, you're hitting the Wukong. He's in the front line. He has a clone as well. And yes, Ruler eats a couple of orders after that point, but he's never really under threat of dying.
Oh my gosh. Scout just gets obliterated, man. He rocket jumps right in there and just gets taken straight out. And it's something where JDG are showing some of the decisiveness we've known them for.
They have, and now with some gold in pocket, they get themselves to their first items of the game. Knight didn't have himself his Everfrost before that first play. I think particularly in this game, I've grasped a lot about Ahri item builds over, particularly this year. I feel like there are some cases where Ahri really needs to do more damage. In this game, though, it's very important that Knight has backline access. No one on this team is going to be able to reach the carries unless they're pinned in place. I think the Everfrost does have some value here.
See if that actually does come in clutch, but it's nice to see JDG responding with some good fights of their own. The question is now we have another Rift Herald on the table. We do have first items pretty much across the board. Still waiting on Tarzan to fix that one up, but it is something where I want to see if the LNG are willing to connect and try to contest yet another objective here.
Game slows down again. Herald has spawned JDG. They got themselves some wave pushes, importantly to them. It did feel like in the last couple of games, one of the big determining factors was LNG getting some winning lane matchups, stuff like with the LeBlanc or the Xayah pushing in and being able to control the map beyond that point. This time it's JDG with that advantage.
Missing actually taking a lot of pressure on this Braum. The reason why it is here, right? We were talking a little bit about JDG going to their comfort, but it is still trying to find the safety for Ruler and Knight. We've we've seen that just yet, but it is this Rift Herald that is in the eyes of LNG and JDG.
Their ultimates are back up. Scout's flash is still down, so LNG...
They're going to give it away?
I think they kind of have to, right? I think LNG think they have to slow things down themselves, just take a step back. Again, they're still not out of this game, absolutely not, still very, very close. But if you lose another big fight around a Herald, just like you did around that Dragon, which of course wasn't the largest loss ever, but each of these fights is going to start weighing heavily on you. You want to stop JDG snowballing.
And we coming into this game itself, we were saying how crucial it would be for Knight and Kanavi to connect. Well, Knight has 2 kills. He's got 5 stacks on the Dark Seal as well, and he is going to be that backline access, let alone that you were talking about. But also, he's been a lot of the leading engage with the charms.
Which is so important, because Knight has had a fairly quiet series. The Jace game was great.
The Jace game was great.
That was great. The games after that, he kind of struggled, but in my eyes, going back onto that Ahri, it's one of the champions which I think he's best at, and I think he's probably the best player of it in the world. I think, you know, you got names like Rookie out there as well, Chovy, another great player, Faker, Shahu. Yes, there's a great list of them, but Knight snowballs very, very effectively. JDG will want to continue that snowball as an entire team, not just with that mid laner. By getting that Herald in towards that mid lane, taking the mid lane out of turret, getting a second charge.
Wow.
It's a good moment for them.
And they will get the first turret of the game for the first time in the series. So it feels a little bit good, man. LNG had a lot of domination in that factor. But with that being said, a lot of gold going over to JDG. Not big a lead, about a little bit over 1,000. But there is a Dragon in about 1:10. And it feels like it's literally the timer for the rounds of fights to start.
Certainly feels like it. The thing about an objective fight is that when you're trying to be the engaging team, you're kind of sat there going, well, come on, can you actually come and face me at some point? That timer in either the top left or right hand of your screen, that really helps with that. Because like the little piece of candy you have under like the little trap, the little box on held up with a piece of string.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Scout though needs to rocket jump out. That Everfrost coming in clutch, but he was able to put some damage into Knight as well. It is LNG who are moving a ton of vision around this pit here in the top side of the map.
They are. That won't help them towards this Dragon spawn, third one of the game. It is a Cloud Rift. It's one of the least valuable souls we've had in this series so far. And I mean, speaking of soul value, of course, JDG lost with an Ocean Soul in a draft, which it felt really good for earlier into the series. Cloud Soul, though, not really going to be the be-all and end-all of this game.
I like this map movement, though. I feel like LNG can take turrets so quickly with the combos. Obviously, Jinx very strong, but the sieger of all is the Tristana. Okay, they were opting into a side lane fight, but now they're getting collapsed on.
Tarzan going to be able to get out of dodge. Blast Cone is going to be there for safety. Knight, is he going to pop the ult here? How far are they willing to go for this?
Oh, Glacial Prison comes out. That leaves the room for Knight to go through, and now the Cyclone Scout just taking out the golden left hand, seizes the neck of Scout, and rips him from existence.
All right, so mid-jungle, Kanavi, Knight popping off at this point. 3-0-1 on the Ahri, doing so well, and the snowball from JDG we've asked for them is looking like it is on the roll now. 369 able to at least hold that wave towards the bot side, and LNG, considering this is where they were succeeding in the last few games, where they could push in lanes and control the map, that's a big clap back now from JDG.
3-0 on the Ahri, another side lane turret going down, or at least a side lane turret going down for JDG. And it is something that Knight is starting to build into a monster here on the Ahri. It is LNG who tried to take the front foot and take this Dragon. And they should be able to get that one scot-free. JDG on those resets weren't able to answer.
So JDG, they take the opportunity to make a topside play, really hard forcing it, using all charge of the Spirit Rush, and they trade that for the Dragon. Again, this is not really the soul which is going to determine the game, so giving up a Cloud Dragon or two and not allowing yourself get close towards that soul, I think that's a fair trade at this point. Second item starting to come over the horizon as well. First being built up, Horizon Focus for Knight. It's halfway between that kind of utility and damage build because it gives you a decent amount of ability haste. Fight towards the top side though, Kanavi doesn't have flash or ults.
He was playing pretty aggressive there in the lane, and that's just a complete lockdown. Scout gets his first kill of the game.
Why is he up that far? Really feels like he's out of position. No one was there to help him. And it's on the 20-minute mark. Cardinal sin by Kanavi, dying at the Baron spawn.
That can't happen. That can't happen. It's a double marksman composition. They burn this so fast. There's no real response for JDG. Look at Zika. They found a double knockup, and Ruler's already burned the Feather Storm. Zika is looking for the Ruler, but he can't find him with the All Out. LNG on the other side trying to reset the fight. Will not take it any further, but they might actually look back to a reset.
Okay, so LNG, they look for the turn, they don't stay for the Baron itself, but Kanavi, you can't die at a point like that, not when your team is down 2-1. the grand finals of the LPL, that is the kind of play which loses you series. He stays for a red buff still. That's what he ends up doing. But I think the problem is here is that he's just not connected with the rest of his team. Maybe he thinks he can get this one for free, but he doesn't have flash. He doesn't have ult from the previous play. And even at this point, he doesn't have clone. He used that to take the red buff. LNG punished well.
And Tarzan, the timing for him has been so good on this Sejuani. I can see why they banded away against him so many times in their previous series, but it is the turnaround here, and Zika finding the back line so crucial.
Luckily for Ruler, he is on the Xayah, so he can save himself a little bit more. He doesn't die for it, he just has to blow his summoners. That's still important, blowing those summoners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will be a big tool in those next fights, which he won't have. But LNG, that's a spark of hope for them in a game which they've typically been eating the bad fights in.
And we do see now, getting back onto the map, we have second item completions coming across as well. So some carries starting to get some items in their belt. You got the Navori quick blades there for Ruler. But that Gale Force is now alive and well for Gala. You're very close to Scout getting his second item as well.
One of the things that we were harking on about is that JDG, yes, they need to snowball, but why is that? Because if you're even with a double marksman comp that reaches 2-3 items in a good timing, they just have more damage than you.
They do.
Particularly when they have 3 big frontliners in the Sejuani, the Ksante, and the Nautilus, who we've seen be very hard to kill on a lot of these big plays too. It does feel like LNG, despite the fact that they're down a couple of thousand gold, they're getting towards the point in the game where they're feeling more and more like they can take fights.
I'm wondering, with the kind of lane assignments going down here, LNG were trying to capitalize on 369 in the side lane. That is going to be hard to do. He's got the Frostfire Gala, he's got the Sunfire Cape, but LNG want to try to use this kind of pick-style composition now to get those advantages before they even need to go into a team fight.
But as it happens, JDG, look at their minimap. They're above the river, they're beyond the river in every single lane on the map. That's one of the things which made it so hard for them to play the previous games which they were losing. Now they have that push priority. That will allow them to protect these objectives and approach these objectives in the way that they want to, rather than just responding to LNG. They can't afford to get picked off though. Kanavi getting picked off around that last attempt at Baron. It's a very dangerous moment for them. So LNG looking to replicate that if they can. And
the thing you can't forget, this was hotly contested, but it's 3 members for JDG that were on the first All-Pro team this split. Kanavi, Knight, Ruler. You're gonna have to rely on these 3 if you want to try to push us to silver scrapes. Again, this is a JDG who have already taken down LNG in a previous round. Maybe the Demon's coming back to bite them here, but it's LNG in their first ever grand finals, taking them to task.
369 spots out LNG towards his top side. Zika has...
This is some trouble for Tarzan. Doesn't end up getting out there. You did finally get that second item completion for Scout and the boots for the Merc Treads. JDG, they're bold. They're going for the Baron.
Hey, so LNG, they don't have vision on this right now. They have one blue trinket from Gala. Are they going to use it for this one? They spot it out. Now, JDG, are you looking for the turn or are you looking for the finish?
All right, they're going to try to go through. 369's already over the wall. The Baron is the focus right now for JDG, but they've already taken out. It is not going to be stolen away, but the Gragas is already gone. Tarzan trying to get out of the back of the pit, but the Cyclone is huge damage, and that means the JDG have already taken down 2 here. They get the depth charge out onto Ruler, but the Featherstorm in response, they are finding everything they need. It might have been the Baron, it might have been the fight, and JDG, they actually take down, no, Scout, he goes down to a triple kill to the golden left hand!
Knight has come to play, puts himself into the position to punish LNG. The charms fly through and he's now 6-0 on 3 on the champion, which he's found so much comfort on over this year. JDG, they take the Baron at the cost of 369's life, but that is it, despite the blinking health bars.
And Knight was so confident in his role against Scout in this series, and we're seeing it come here in Game 4.
It looked a little bit awkward because 369, it wasn't the best explosive cask. Gala gets a rocket on target too. Tarzan gets into the pit. This is closer than JDG wanted it to be. This was HP measured in 10s rather than 100s of that Baron being in smiting distance, potentially turning this entire game around, but JDG, bold though it might be, they walk away with a huge play.
Dude, Knight in this replay, it's actually insane, man. He dodges out of the dredge line, he gets that huge charm connection there, and you can appreciate Gala trying to go ham, but it doesn't matter! Oh my god, JDG, they are looking to end the game here, 25.5 minutes!
They've just taken the Baron, they've taken a huge fight. Scout is the only remaining wave clear. JDG, can they push this to Game 5?
They are looking to take down these last Nexus turrets. You don't have much defense from LNG. You're missing Gala, you're missing Hung, and we're seeing a lot of what we saw last game come alive for LNG. They can't can't get this double marksman comp online fast enough.
Okay, but how much wavelet can come through? The Baron creeps are so tanky.
Oh, Tarzan caught. Tarzan's down, and Ruler takes him down. That's the Nexus Tower number 1. They're looking at number 2, and you better get those speakers ready, because we're going to Silver Scrapes, baby! And it's nothing else for the LPL Grand Finals!
The Golden Road's got a hint of silver in it, but only in the Game 5. The dream is alive for JDG. LNG, they've pushed him to the edge, but they were blindsided